Yo guys, Gluten-Free EDC here. I'm Brian, your gluten-sensitive representative. Today I have a small details overview of the Kody Eutsler Dukling. Now a bit about Kody. He's been making knives in the Ozarks since about 2015. He switched to making CNC knives, I believe, around 2018. And that's where we come into the duck, and then, which is the bigger brother, a 3.5-inch blade with a drop point blade. We come to this, the duckling, which came afterwards. I believe this started around 2020, the start of 2020, and then V2, which this one is, came about November of 2021. This particular one, so you get a COA with his knives. You see Eutsler Custom Knives. Kody Eutsler is the maker and owner. There's his Gmail, his Instagram, Eutsler Custom Knives. Definitely check him out. He's got some awesome knives on there. So some details about this one. This is again the Duckling, based off of the Duck or Duke, the Daily Utility Knife, DUK. A play off of that, the Duckling. Everyone was calling that one the Duck anyway, so it made sense. So this one, it has a hornet's nest blade, which is Damascus. Fantastic looking blade. I mean, look at that. This has to be one of the cooler looking Damascus out there. I believe this is Mike Norris. I could be wrong there though, but definitely one of the cooler ones that I've seen that are out there. You've got handles made out of titanium. This titanium is Zerblast, so it's super smooth and durable. The finish is very durable because of that Zerblast. Then you have Koa. So this is a unique one, right? It's got Koa inlays, both here and on the other side. And what's really cool about Kody is he took the extra step to line up the grain with those inlays so they're seamless. So cool. It almost looks like it goes underneath the frame. Really cool how he did that. It just makes it have this depth. Not only the grain itself, because it's got that amazing figure to it, but the fact that it almost seems like it goes underneath and continues, that's really, really cool. Then you have a dark tie pocket clip. I'm gonna set this down here, so I think you can still read that. The dark tie pocket clip. So what's really, really awesome about this clip, in my opinion, is it's heavy on the zirconium, right? So the parts that weren't able to anodize or be heat treated, I forget how they do that, remains gray or black. And then this is titanium, where it's the rainbow of colors. Beautiful, beautiful clip. I love that. Seeing more Zerk in it, it's just really cool. What I don't like to see is a full Zerk clip, because they'll bend out and then they kind of have less spring to them, so they'll stay and bend out easily. Because the titanium is folded in here, it goes back nice and easy. Really cool pocket clip. The back spacer is in zirconium. You have a flush back spacer that continues all the way around to here. And you have a zirconium pivot collar, right? So the pivot collar is really interesting. The frame actually is poking up in each of those spots that you see the silver or gray, and then the darker black or dark gray is that Zerk pivot collar. Really, really cool how he does that. And you can really see how it is indeed the frame when you come over here, right? The frame continues around. It's all one piece. It's really cool that he's doing something like that. It's unique. I really dig it. It makes it look cool, but also just, I think it's really cool to see something milled in that manner. A little bit about the blade. So this is a Tanto blade. This is how he started it out with the V1 and V2. So you have a Tanto, you have the swoop down here with a swedge running on either end, which actually makes for a very comfortable, if you're resting your finger on there, it's very comfortable because of those swedges on either end, but then the flat up top. Really, really cool to see. Then you have this thumb ramp for your thumb to lie on. This is I believe, a flat grind. So you have a flat along here, and then right here is about the transition where it starts grinding down. Flat grind, fairly thin, not horribly thin behind the edge, but what's nice about that is it allows the tip to remain fairly robust. So I like seeing that. I'm not too worried about the tip here. Now, this is a special duckling, right? This was an auction piece that my buddy Drew had won at one point. I told him I was in love with it. I had owned a couple ducklings actually since prior to getting this one, and then finally got this one. Sold all my other ducklings because this one replaced all of them. So one thing about this, what I wanted to mention was, yes, it's an auction knife, so you have a unique bit going on with the Zerblast, that awesome frame poking through with the pivot collars, and the Koa inlays. Additionally, so this was a V2, I believe, so it has a lock bar insert. Really, really nice. You could barely tell it's there. However, there's no internal milling. The V2s, I believe, all had internal milling. The only internal milling you'll see is the internal lock bar relief. Pretty nifty how he does that. So he leaves a very slim bit not completely milled out, so it looks like there's no relief at all, but there is. It does make for a somewhat thick lock bar pressure, however, not horrible. I have noticed on my other ducklings, I believe I own 3 in total, including this one. The other ones did seem a bit lighter to push over, maybe. But this isn't difficult to push over at all, just from what I can remember at least. So the V2, you got the V2 you got steels like CPM 154. I believe the blade shape did change, which makes me almost think this is a V1. This is almost like an intermediary between V1 and V2. I forget when this one was actually made. Unfortunately, it's not included in the COA. But he did transition back to a drop point at some point. I believe maybe November 2021, if I recall. But aside from that, you do have this Tanto here on this one, so the original V1s that he was doing, so that was carried over to this one. You have a fairly, I don't know how you can say this, the plunge grind is kind of long, like it dips down for a while, so you can see like the thickness here, right? It does go a bit of a way and gets right up to that where the sharpening choil ends. It maybe would affect sharpening. I don't know when I had this knife. So I did end up selling this to my buddy. And dude, Steve, I know you're going to be watching this. Such a cool surprise to see this one back, man. I forgot to mention that at the beginning of the video. Dude, so sick seeing this knife. I mean, it's gorgeous. I love this knife still, even though I don't own it anymore. But anyway, back to the blade. Yeah, I could see sharpening being an issue, but I doubt you're going to be using this too hardcore, this type of knife. I never did, just because it is so gorgeous. We'll go on to something that's super, super unique to the Dukling, and to Kody Eustler's work in general. So specifically the Dukling, where the blade lines up with the frame is insane. And it doesn't matter if it's in the closed position or the locked position or the open position. So long as it's locked, closed, locked, open, it's wild. So you can see right here, all flush, amazing, right? Really nice, gorgeous. Here, he's doing much the same. And yeah, if we stop there, that's nice. But then we open it up, so this one travels over to here and lines up with there. So you have a nice seamless thumb ramp down. Really comfortable. And then this one, if we were to follow that, goes here and makes this flat unbelievably comfortable as well and meets up perfectly. Now this choil, it's nice if you're gonna put maybe your fingertip in there. I don't have the thickest of fingers, but I could see that being an issue. Maybe if I'm gonna like just barely put my finger in there for something, some refined, detailed work. But typically I'm doing on top anyway. But it is a usable choil. He knocks down the blade ever so slightly right here, so you're not gonna stab yourself. So it's usable, it's small, but because he does this work here, it does make it super comfortable. It's wild. It's crazy. And that sense of comfort that you get from that, it's found everywhere throughout the knife, right? So you have the spine, like I was saying, because of the swedges and the flat up top, it feels like it's a crown spine almost. It's so comfortable, really cool to rest your finger on top of. And then this level of comfort, this has to be one of the best knives ergonomically that I've experienced. It's crazy. So you have contoured everything. Everything's contoured, so there's no sharp nothing. It's feels crazy. Like everything's rounded off. It's really, really nice. Then you have these beautiful angles everywhere. So you have this angling down, but it's like almost a sweep down. This is curved. Right here you have a subtle curve going on. Subtle right in there, so you have it kind of coming out this way, then back in, then even deeper in. So it makes, in the main position, really, it makes it really comfortable. It just fills everything. The transition to your thumb is really cool, and then you have the thumb ramp locking you in. And all of these indexing points really lock you into this knife. It just feels so good in hand. And now I know it's a little bit forward with the V2 where they're milled out, in my experience, which is fantastic. This one's ever so slightly back, but I mean, you can see that's not that far back, and it's kind of where you are anyway. But it makes it really, really nice. It just feels good. And then even if you are going to choke up, it still locks me in perfectly. It's just so good. It fits my hand perfectly. Again, I have a medium-sized hand, on the smaller side of a medium-sized glove. So I would say I have small hands. They're a bit bigger than a small glove, but yeah. Now, the craziest thing about Kody's knives, aside from ergos, in my opinion, the ergos are wildly good, is this detent. He has the best detent. It's so good. It's light, but crisp and snappy. I mean, come on, you could do the middle finger flick, you can do the thumb, and it just, you know that it's gonna fly on out of this knife every single time. It's so good. I love that aspect. Now, I know the original owner of this knife did have the detent strengthened ever so slightly. However, in my experience with all his knives, the detent was fairly similar. So it was this, so maybe he just kind of took that and rolled with it, because every knife that I had experienced was built after this one. But it's so good. Now, along with the detent, Kody makes his own thumb studs. You might have noticed blurred out over here are his thumb studs. He sells them every once in a while. He'll do a drop on his website. They're first come, first serve. And I've made sure to get on it so I could have every single version. These are so good. Tie Connector does make their variant of this stud. They didn't used to, I don't believe. But they're very similar now. So you have that stepping down, which a lot of them do, but then you also have like this geared pattern around the side. So it really just catches your thumb, and there's no point that's gonna hurt. I think what a lot of custom makers, or just, you know, even the production makers are missing when they do thumb studs, they're making something that's gonna hurt in deployment. Yeah, maybe not that first flick, but, you know, a handful of flicks later, it's painful. Now, I know what a lot of people are going to say is, oh, well, you shouldn't be fidgeting with a knife, blah, blah, blah. Listen, you do what you want to do. I'm going to do what I want to do. I do like to fidget with my knives. It's something that I personally enjoy. I also like using my knives. You do whatever you want to do, man. It really makes no difference to me. I don't want to get too deep into that. But that said, these are more comfortable to use. He does them in zirconium, titanium, Damascus, and they're awesome. They're freaking awesome. I know when I get a thumb stud knife that I finally say, like, okay, this is a keeper. Now I have thumb studs that I'm going to change them out with, hopefully, if they fit. Yeah, funny to be talking about thumb studs, right? But there they are. So let's do some quick size comparisons. This is a 2.995 inch blade. This is the Quiet Carry Waypoint, which has a 3.25 inch blade. Get that off. The Mini Arius, which is a 3-inch blade. So you can see they're basically the same exact thing. And I believe this is 3-inch. And by the way, I've been loving the Mini Arius. For anyone that watched my initial video, if you haven't, feel free to go check it out. I do an unboxing and initial review or overview of it. It's awesome. It's remained awesome. I love this knife. I think I've had it about a month now, maybe, and it's so good. I've used it now, put it in pocket. Fantastic. And of course, gotta get in a nice little 3-inch awesome Respect, my first custom. Love this knife. Okay, and before I go, one other thing I want to mention is the pocket clip. So I've noticed on his knives that the pocket clip is all the same. There's a lot of surface area being in contact, surface area of the pocket clip to the scale. Now, that would actually be an issue if the scale was anything but super smooth. This Zerblast finish makes this incredibly smooth and durable, right? Like I said before. So in and out of pocket, this is a dream. It's very deep carry, so you're gonna have that much sticking up. Like, come on, super deep carry, love it. The problem is he has a lot of surface area contacting there. So he does milling styles, all crazy sorts of things. They're a bit more difficult in and out of pocket. The smooth one is where it's at for me. Personally, when I had it, that was a bonus, was how easy this was in and out of pocket. But that can be an issue on his other variants where they're more like acid washed or have the milling going on. Just something to take note of. But this one works so well. I had this one in pocket many a time, and yeah, it was fantastic. That's the last thing I wanted to say about it. I mean, oh my goodness, look at that pocket clip. It's so gorgeous. And then the Koa, honestly, like the lock side is the show side for me, because you get this awesomeness going on. Anyway, the Dukling is a fantastic knife. Kody is killing it. He has the neutralizer out right now, and I've heard from a buddy of mine that just got one this last week. He's loving that knife. The D10 on that is amazing as well. That's just a thing with his knives. They're so good with deployment and the close. This one, a little shake and it falls shut. It's wild, but it'll stay where you place it. And then you give it like any love and it just shoots home. It's so good. Action for days on his knives. But yeah, Kody Eustler killing it. The Dukling, a fantastic knife. That's all I want to say for today. I hope you guys have enjoyed. And for those of you that have lasted 20, almost 2 minutes, leave a comment below saying, made the grade. You know, you did it. Good on you. Thanks for sticking around, guys. I really appreciate the support. I've been Brian. Talk to you guys later. Take care.